Hey, what's up guys? I'm here today in the P-Man shop. I know it's been a while since I made a video, but I've been really busy this summer. Doing all kinds of stuff. Been working in this shop that my dad and I have opened, and we're recording the new Intertwined album, and we've opened a studio. So anyway, I thought this is something I'd been looking at a lot of lately in the shop. We've been doing a lot of solid-state amplifiers, and there's this sort of mystique, like in a bad way, about solid-state amps. Like they're this horrible thing, and you should, solid-state amps are just awful. And the truth is that solid-state amps are not awful. They're just like tube amps in the fact that you have to pick good ones. Because there are tube amps that are all tube, preamp, power amp, whatever, and they still sound like ass. So what I've got today are 3 solid-state amplifiers, relatively cheap solid-state amplifiers actually, that are surprisingly nice sounding. So I just want to kind of take away that I don't know, that sort of curse that hangs over solid-state amps, like, oh, these are just the worst thing ever. No, do let me say that I use tube amps live and in the studio and pretty much everything, and these are not on the same level as like an Axe Effects or something, which is just like this glorious processing machine. These are more analog solid-state amplifiers, but they're totally solid-state, except for the last one I'm going to show you, which is an older vintage Legend amplifier, and it's a hybrid. It has a tube preamp and a solid-state power amp. For the sake of the demo, I'm going to be playing everything for you today through with my little cab down here. It's the Splon 212 cab. This one I've changed the speakers in from the stocks. These are warehouse speakers. It's a British Lead and a Retro 30, which are my favorite warehouse speakers. The Splon speakers sound great too. I just wanted something different in this cab. And so I'm going to be playing all the amps through this speaker cab just for consistency. I'm not going to put a microphone directly on the cab because I want you to hear how big the amps sound, even though they are solid state. So what I've got is my little zoom mic sort of back in the room a little bit, and so you'll be able to hear the sort of the whole room too. But yeah, let me show you these amps. They're pretty sweet. Alright, so the first amp we're going to run through here is the little Crate GX15, which I can only assume from the number 15 is a 15-watt amplifier. It has a tiny little speaker in it, 2 channels, clean and dirty, and then 3-band EQ, and there's a gain control for the drive channel, and there's separate level controls for the clean and the dirty, and has a headphone out and a speaker out, which is kind of cool for a little amp. But anyway, so like I said, I'm just going to play everything through this Splon cab just for uniformity. And I've got it up pretty loud. I think the master volume is on like 8 out of 10, so it's pretty boomy. But yeah, I'm not going to play the clean channel on these amps because we're guitar players, and obviously we don't do anything but play on distortion ever. It's mostly because I'm lazy. So anyway, yeah, here's some drive tones out of the little Crate amp, which was pretty good sounding. So anyway, this is what it sounds like. So I think that's a pretty fat sounding little amplifier. I've got the controls. I try to just dial in the best tone I could find, and the gain is not maxed. I'll go ahead and yank it up, but as you can imagine, it gets a little crappier sounding if you have the gain up too high. But here's what that sounds like. And it has a little bit of hiss you can hear. And here's I'll turn the gain down a little lower. You can hear just more like a mild crunch sound. Okie dokie, so that's the Crate GX15. You can get these used on eBay for something like 40 bucks or something, which I think for an amp that sounds pretty good as far as a practice amp goes. You obviously, this is probably not allowed to do much gigging with, but yeah, I mean, it's as far as like a little practice home amp goes, this thing is plenty loud and it sounds pretty decent, I think. So, especially for 40 bucks. So let's move on to the next one. All right, next up we have the Behringer. I think it's a GM110. This has a small 10-inch speaker in it. So again, it's not got a huge bottom out of the cabinet like a bigger amplifier would. So I'm running everything through this speaker cabinet. I'm not sure how many watts this is. I think maybe it's 20 or 30. It actually doesn't seem to be quite as loud as the other amp is, as the little Crate amp, but still a good sounding amp. And this one it's single channel, but it has these 3 different switches that let you choose the voicing of the amplifier and the gain staging in the cabinet. So here I've got it set on the California setting in the clean mode, and I've got the drive turned up pretty hard, and on like the British cabinet setting. And again, like I said, I'm not gonna go through every single sound that it'll do, but here's just what I think. This is a pretty good, crunchy rock sound, a la maybe like Joe Bonamassa or something. So yeah, this amp sounds really good too. So here's what it sounds like. And I'll roll back on the volume and put it in single coil mode here. So yeah, again, a pretty loud and present amp. I'll go ahead and I'll put it in more of a gain mode now, and I don't like this one as much with the more distortion on it, as it starts to get a little, I don't know, I want to say a little fake sounding, but I'll let you hear what that sounds like. So I left the drive where it was and everything. I just clicked it over in high gain mode, so it's going to have considerably more gain now. So yeah, it is also worth noting with this amp, it has a few extra features, like it has the speaker out just like the other one, but it also has an effects loop, which is nice. And I think it's also a little nicer looking. It's kind of looks more like a real amp and less like a practice amp. So. Okay, now let's move on to the nicest of these sort of solid state themed amps. All right, and last but certainly not least, we have an old vintage Legend Super Lead 50 in a combo box. This is a 112 combo. Again, defeated the speaker. It's just running into this cabinet below. These amps they were made, I think, between 1978 and maybe 1981 and 82. So they weren't around very long. They came out right about the same time that the real Mesa Boogie craze started with the boutique amplifiers. You can see it's got that same kind of look with the hardwood and the cane and everything. It's a beautiful amps. This is the kind of amp, not this exact model, but this brand of the amp that Billy Gibbons used on ZZ Top's Eliminator, which is one of their biggest selling albums still. It is a thunderous amp. It's unbelievably loud, and it has to me it sounds somewhere between an old Marshall, like a really old Marshall of the late 60s, but sort of smoothed out on the top end, a bit more like you would associate with one of the old Mark I boogies or something. So it's a really sort of unique, sweet tone, and it is just like thunderous is the only way I know to describe it. This amp gets unbelievably loud and it just rumbles. It has this bass boost control that really just takes it into the whole, you know, feels like you're playing an amp in front of an arena type sound. It has reverb. I'm not using that. I've got the bass boost just barely turned in, and the volume is on 2 right now, and it'll get loud to the point where you just can't stand it. So, yeah, like I mentioned before, this is a tube preamp, so it has 3 12AX7 tubes in the preamp, but it's a solid state power amp. And so my dad and I we've collected a bunch of these. You can actually get these on eBay sometimes, you know, for $200 or $300 or something. It's an oak cabinet and a tube preamp, and the amp just sounds fantastic. So anyway, so here's this tremendous sounding amp through that same cabinet. Now, as you can see, this one cleans up a little better because of the tube preamp. It's a bit more dynamic as far as working with your volume knob. So I'll put it on single coil now and play a little bit with that with the volume rolled back. In my opinion, this amp, for the money, is probably about one of the best amps you can buy. And like I said, they don't make them anymore. These were only made for like 5 years or something in the late 70s, early 80s. But they pop up from time to time on eBay or Craigslist or wherever you want to look for them. And if you ever find one of these, I highly suggest that you pick one up. It's a really nice amp. We've got like 9 or 10 of them now. This to me gets the closest to that old Cream sound, like the Clapton was using those big old Marshall stacks in the late 60s. So I'll play a little Cream here. Okay, I'm going to stop now because the neighbors out here are probably not going to be happy with me. But anyway, yeah, so I think that proves my point, I think, in the sense that the solid-state amplifiers, at least in the power section, can be just as good sounding as tube amplifiers in the right applications with the right kinds of amps, the right guitar. In this case, I've been using the Custom 24 with the DiMarzios in it, Crunch Lab liquefier. And yeah, the biggest thing I think to be aware of is amps that are solid state analog and amps that are solid state digital. These are different things. The analog sounding amps I just think sound better, and but anyway, like this one is a great example of a really good buy on an amp. We probably only paid like $250, $300 for this amp or whatever, and then restored it, cleaned the oak up and put new cane on it. But it's a beautiful amp and it sounds great, and because it is solid state, it is not very heavy in comparison to like a Boogie or the Splawn or something that's really super huge transformer. But yeah, so check these out. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys later.